All right, now we're talking about stress and the immune system. Basically, the book goes into a little bit on B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes and what their purpose is, and macrophages that ingest foreign substances. Basically, during stress, energy is mobilized away from the immune system, making it vulnerable. So, uh, you need to have these things working at full capacity to fight off any kind of thing that enters the body, whether it be a bacteria. You can try to fight a virus, but we don't really know how that works yet. But, all right. What they have found is people with the highest life stress scores were also the most vulnerable when exposed to an experimental cold virus. So there seems to be a very strong correlation here with as stress goes up, immune system goes a little bit down or haywire. Again, stress and AIDS. Uh, stress doesn't cause AIDS, but it can definitely have an effect on people who have acquired HIV, and increase the speed at which they have problems. Same with cancer. It does not create cancer, but and they don't know, and researchers disagree as to how much stress really affects cancer's progression. But having a very positive attitude definitely helps people. They think fight the disease, if you want to call it that. If you just give in, many times people who want to live will find ways to live. Now, it's not always that way with something that's killing your body, but um, just something to think about. You can actually condition your body to, well, basically, let me read it. If the immune system can be suppressed through conditioning, researchers believe that immune-enhancing responses can be created to combat viral diseases. So you can do it, make it go both ways. Basically, if you pair a conditioned stimulus, sweetened water, with an unconditioned stimulus, you could end up with immune suppression. Okay, so and you can try and do the same thing with improving someone's state by pairing something, a stress with something positive that can hopefully increase it. Okay. So persistent stressors and negative emotions, release of stress hormones can have all those negative problems, and then of course can result in unhealthy behaviors that continue to have a spiraling effect. Um, so it's one of those things where you want to make sure you're not helping yourself increase your own stress. Now let's go to promoting health. Promoting health is generally defined as the absence of disease. Okay, we only think of health when we are diseased. I don't know how many of you who are healthy right now sit there and go, "Man, I sure am healthy," and walk around going, "Well, I feel great." I try to be more aware of it, more mindful of it. I guess it could help if you're a little bit more in the moment of your life instead of always planning ahead, because you're at that stage now where you're always thinking about the future, the future. Um, at some point, you want to be in the now, okay? And when you're in the now, that helps you be more aware of, I'm doing all right. I'm not falling apart. Things are good, okay? Which would decrease your stress. However, health psychologists say that promoting health begins by preventing illness and enhancing well-being, which is a constant endeavor. Okay, and we'll show you some things here. Coping with stress, reducing stress. Sorry, I got an itch on my nose. It's just driving me nuts. And I think it's because I can see myself on the camera. I got a screen here. I'm looking at it, and I see myself, and then I get an itch. So I've addressed that. It'll stop. All right, reducing stress by changing events that cause stress or by changing how we react to stress is called problem-focused coping. So if you hate your job, change it. Okay. If you're in a bad marriage, change it. I'm not saying these are easy decisions, but they are decisions. Emotion-focused coping is when we cannot change a stressful situation and respond by attending to our own emotional needs. So maybe you can't change your job right now. You're in a financial situation where it's just not going to happen immediately. Well, maybe you find a way to emotionally say, in your mind, you create a positive way of dealing with it in your mind. What's normally a stressful situation, you turn into a game or You reward yourself after work with a successful day. If you didn't have any, um, if you were able to hold your emotions in check, maybe you do something you like to do. So there's a lot of different ways to do emotion-focused coping. Your perceived control of a situation is very important as well. That can cause some stress. Uh, Basically, what they have found here with the rats, and I think we've studied this in a different chapter, is rats that feel like they can turn off an electric shock have less um, issues than the same rat receiving the same electrical shock that don't know when they're going to come and not come. They will have more psychological as well as physical um, symptoms usually. Okay, the odds of getting those symptoms increase, and that is the conclusion. There is that when we feel like we control our destiny, it improves our mental outlook, which improves our health. So keep that in mind. You want to try and stay in control of your life the best you can. When you, I guess, get on a wheel, and as I joke about it, but I also think it's very true. But when you guys get in the maze and are rats in a maze chasing cheese, and you don't feel like you even know why, someone told you you're supposed to go get this cheese, and you're like, you ever stop and ask yourself, do I even like cheese? Do I want this cheese? Do I want to be in this maze? And you don't even know how to get out of it, or you feel like you keep getting plopped in it by some outside force, that's going to cause stress. So just keep that in mind. Think about what you're doing and why you're doing it. If you have an explanatory style in your life, people with an optimistic explanatory style tend to have more control of their stressors. They cope better with stressful events and have better moods and have a stronger immune system. So if you were to say, hey, I didn't do well on that test this week, I just had a bad week, didn't get good sleep, maybe you're an athlete, you got a lot going on, or you just say, well, look, I control it. I didn't study as well as I normally do, and I didn't do as well as I could have. I'm disappointed in myself, but I know I can do better. Versus, oh, I didn't do well on the test. I am stupid. I mean, that's so absolute. And I know many of you don't think that way, but I have heard so many kids think that. I hate tests because I am stupid. I can't do tests. I will fail tests. And with that thinking, you really have no chance. Okay. Social support's important. You want to have your social network, your group, people telling you, positive things about yourself when you're under stress, or there for you when you need a shoulder to cry on, or things like that, which girls are so much better at than boys. But the key thing is isolating yourself, not the answer. And guys tend to do that more often than girls. Okay. And when you have a support group that you can vent issues with, it's very cathartic, and it reduces blood pressure, and it reduces stress on your system. So those are the things that we're talking about. So recap. Another thing, aerobic exercise, huge, and I cannot stress this enough to you guys. You guys know, many of you, I'm a trainer, and I'm big on exercising. I had grandparents that didn't, and I've watched them just erode, and it had a tremendous effect on my life. And I just thought, they got lucky to get to their 80s, and I just figured, if I can get to be 80, I don't want to go out that way. So exercise to me is just something I'm going to do. It's just part of I can't imagine not exercising. So anyway, try to make it part of your life, and it doesn't have to be something that you hate. Try to find things that you like, okay, to do. But anyway, it boosts spirits. It has been shown that we release hormones and different chemicals in our body that make us feel better. It reduces stress tremendously, and as somebody who deals with stress a lot of anxiety, I almost have to do it, and it just sort of wears you out. So look at this chart. I think it tells a lot. Very important. You got any questions about it, or how to start sorry, I'm listening. My cat is tearing up my table right now. Every day, the legs. The cat gets it. But Loki, stop! But anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me how to get started on aerobic exercise. They also have biofeedback, relaxation, meditation. I've talked to you a little bit about this. You can actually, the biofeedback systems were kind of like something you had to go to a clinic for in the past. Now, with the phones and the bands around your wrist and everything, it's becoming a daily thing, something very much for the common person to be able to track heart rate, how many steps they've taken, how much food they've eaten of one type, and so you're getting a lot of information throughout the day today. So that's a good thing. But you also want to learn how to relax, take time for yourself. A little thing for me, I try very hard not to bring my work home. I don't mind doing my screencasts here in my home, mostly because I don't think of it as work. I think of it as me being on camera, and you get to look at me. But I walk in my house, and my house is a place I decided when I first had a home. That's where I go to relax. That's my sanctuary. And I think people who bring their work home, they don't have a sanctuary then. It's every place they go it stresses them. You go to work, there's a level of stress if I got to perform, and then you come home. Now it's I got to keep performing. I didn't want that. That's how I chose to do it. You don't have to choose to do it that way, but find a place that you go and relax. And then, of course, meditation. I've told you guys about that. I think it's a wonderful time to just spend a few minutes each day thinking about nothing. And it's very hard to do, but it clears your mind, and it actually gives you more energy to do the things you need to do that cause stress. All right, lifestyles. Okay. Again, modifying lifestyle, type A lifestyle, may reduce stress and heart attacks. And I think I'm definitely an example of that, somebody who had to learn to mellow out. And of course, exercise is huge for me. I also take a drug, which keeps me from being on edge. I don't even know how to explain it. I fought drug therapy for years in my 20s, went into my late 20s, that I took an anti-anxiety, and I use it to this day. And I feel silly for having wasted all that time not taking it, because it enables me to feel less. I couldn't get to a point that I wanted to get to where I didn't react to things in my daily life that I just felt like was overreaction to daily stressors. And even with exercising and things, it didn't seem to work as well as I would have liked. But with the medication, it's just I just noticed, wow, things roll off me easier. And that's all it is. So keep that in mind. It is out there. It's available. Spirituality and faith. Being part of any community is better than not being a part of a community. But definitely when you're talking about spirituality and or religious groups, a lot of research has been done that shows that tends to be a great increaser of longevity of life. So you can look at the charts for yourself. It is an important part of our lives. We are human beings, and to not acknowledge that is, again, probably silly. So that's why you hear why people are so devout to many of their spiritual outlets, is because they need it. We need it as human beings. Okay, so they suggest there are 3 factors that connect religious involvement and better health. So you might live healthier because of religious involvement. Maybe you do things, you're less likely to be a drug addict or something. Social support, and then, of course, positive emotions from being with people who are like-minded. So how can you manage stress? Life events. You appraise the stress. Is it a threat or is it a challenge? Okay. Try to think of school as a challenge. I know right now a lot of you think of it as a threat. It's a threat to your free time. It's a threat to your ego, your outlook of yourself. No. It's a challenge to improve yourself. That's all education is. Don't get caught up in it is I'm either successful or not, or this just non-ending world of you need to succeed at a high super level of academics, or you're not going to be a worthy human being. Not true at all. Okay. The elimination of smoking would increase life expectancy more than any other preventative measure. So there you go. I don't know why people smoke. Okay, we're going to go through this whole section, and basically I'm going to go through it quickly because I want to end this video. But there's a whole section in this chapter on smoking. By and large, with the amount of information that's out there today, why people start smoking, I don't get it. Because I've told you this before, I don't want to pay for people's medical care when they don't stop smoking or shouldn't have ever started, and they smoke for many years, and then they get sick, and then they want, cheap health care to help, their cancer or their lung issues or whatever else is the problem. And I just don't think that's fair to the rest of us when we know smoking is such a horrible thing for the body, okay? So here, why do people smoke? Basically, socially rewarding. A lot of times it can be a genetic factor as far as the addiction goes. But by and large, people start because of the rebelliousness of it. And companies are aware of that, and they market their product with any symbol of rebellion to get kids hooked when they're in their teens. That's the beginning. That's where it starts. Okay? Hey, I'm a rebel. Okay? I mean, I see the kids in school. You see it all the time. I think they're sneaking a dip in their mouth or something like that. You got to follow the policy to, when you see it happening, you got to send them to the discipline and all that stuff. But the whole thing with why are they doing it? Why do they need to be in school doing that? It really, to me, it all comes down to they want to create a mental attitude about themselves and their aura that I don't follow the rules. Okay, great. Don't follow the rules and, have your jaw fall off when you're 25. And here we go. Why do people smoke? Basically, nicotine is a stimulant. It's very addictive. I've told you this. All right. Biopsychosocial factors of smoking. There you go. There's a lot of different things that all tie into it. It's not one thing. It's biological, psychological, and sociocultural. You can read that for yourself. We have come up with, there's a whole industry of quitting smoking now. There's a huge industry for that. You got all the patches, the gums, and now you've got the vapor cigarettes, the e-cigarettes, and all that stuff. Hope it works. Best way is not to start. Okay. Here's a way to quit. I hope none of this applies to any of you, but you never know. There's abstinence programs. Do they work? Some work better than others. By and large, I think the number of people dying from it should have an effect. But again, you're never going to stop people from being, rebellious and starting. It's not going to stop overall. There's always that, thing with being a teenager. I don't understand it. Everybody rebels. I rebel to an extent. We all do. But then when people start to step into doing, smoking, or drugs or harder drugs or drinking or whatever it may be, some of these things that we rebel using, it's playing with fire and you can get burned. Ooh, how's that? All right, now obesity. Okay, now I want to talk about obesity. Fat is an ideal form of stored energy. You need fat, okay, to some extent. That's how we store energy, okay? So basically, in times of famine, an overweight body was a sign of affluence. So back in, the Middle Ages, if you were fat, that meant you actually had a lot of money because most people weren't fat. Big thing here is your body mass index. Here you can see when you get overweight, and this is a tough one. I look at this to an extent, but sometimes you got to throw this out a little bit, especially if you're a heavy exerciser and weightlifter. Like me. But basically, if your BMI gets too high, your body starts operating inefficiently. By and large, you get high BMI, you get heavy body fat or morbidly obese. What it is your heart is pumping. Okay, it's a pump, and it's pumping blood through your body, and it has a harder time pumping blood through fat. So the fatter you get, the harder your heart has to work. And if you think of it this way, your heart has so many pumps in it, and it's going to stop. We all have to deal with that. At some point, my heart will stop. If I'm able to live, injury-free and disease-free, there's going to be a point at which my heart just goes boom, boom. That's it. That's all you got. Well, if you are heavier and that heart has to pump harder, it's going to pump more often to pump the blood through your body. In essence, okay, it's more complicated than this, but you're shortening your life because you only get so many pumps, and none of us knows what that's going to be. So think of it that way if you're having an issue with your weight, okay? Plus there are other things that come from that. So the death rate is high among very overweight men, okay? When you get to the body mass of 32% and above, your odds of death go up, risk of relative death, okay? So nothing earth-shatteringly new there. When women applicants are made to look overweight, subjects were less willing to hire them. I don't understand necessarily. We do have a bit of an obsession with the thin look in this country. Even our models have gotten thinner since the 1950s. It used to be that just being a healthy sized person was okay, but now it's you need to have, if you're female, a super slim image with, of course, a very busty line and all that. So that's beamed at us all the time, and so a lot of women feel that they need to represent this ideal, which for most of us is impossible. Okay, so keep that in mind, that if you have the heavier you are, obviously parts of your body are going to get bigger and smaller based on your BMI. So it doesn't make a lot of sense, some of the body images we have for women in this country. So, but obese people, I would say, are definitely a group that are challenged in society as far as getting jobs and things like that. I don't think that's untrue, and I don't have an answer for you. I wish we can become a more accepting society. I hope that is something. But, again, I don't think we want to say just accept larger people for being larger. To an extent, yes, but if they're unhealthy, I think we always have to be saying, to some extent, we want people to be healthier. So, I mean, I don't want to see someone who is, great, you got that job, you're morbidly obese and you got the job and you're going to die at 32. That is not my idea of a plan to help people, okay? I think of the bigger thing is I want to see people live long and happy lives. It's important to understand how fat cells work. There's a point at which, when you're younger, somewhat genetic, it's genetic based, as well as how you eat as a kid. You'll get more fat cells when you're a kid. That's when you're developing them. Once you get to a certain point, you stop producing fat cells. They either become bigger or smaller at that point. Okay, it's just one of those things to understand, that it's not like you for your whole life are going to be getting more fat cells and more fat cells. That's not how it works. Okay, almost done. Hang with me here. Set point's important. So basically, the key number to understand is 3,500 calories is a pound. If you can reduce your diet by 3,500 calories, usually by about a week, it's about 500 calories a day, you should lose a pound. Not always the case, though. It's not always perfect like that. By and large, for most individuals, that's how it works, but you still have people out there who genetically that doesn't work for them. So they have to go other measures to lose weight. So please, before you're too critical of everyone you come across, understand that there are some genetic problems we have with that. Okay, so there is a set point where your body levels off, where your body will always fight to get back to that point. You have to, like, if you're trying to lose weight, you'll have to lose weight and stay there for a couple of weeks and really be strict with your diet, because your body will want to try to get back to its previous, and I'm moving my hand around like you can see me, your body's going to try to get back to its previous weight, because that's where the set point is. After a couple of weeks of the lowered weight, your set point could be reestablished, okay? Again, there's a genetic factor, okay? So keep that in mind. There is this idea that as we've improved our world mechanically, we have more and more stuff to keep us from moving around on a day-to-day on a day-to-day basis. Machines have taken over a lot of the manual labor we used to do, and so this picture here is kind of uh, comical, I guess, of how we've developed. And then, of course, that last guy there looks like the dude from Wall-E, if you've ever seen Wall-E. So hopefully we're not moving. We can counteract that with our awareness of what's going on with our food and our diet and our lack of activity. Average weight gain has gone up in the last 40 years. Health professionals are pleading with U.S. citizens to limit their food intake. And gosh, is it hard. I mean, I'm having a hard time with my own kids. The mindless snacking, and it's just easy because the food is good, it tastes good, there's sugar in everything now. And believe me, the manufacturers know this. They put sugar in all kinds. I didn't even know this. They put sugar in hamburgers. Okay, McDonald's has sugar in its hamburgers because it makes the burger taste better. Okay, so it's one of those things where, and of course, that makes you want to have more and more and more and more. And it's almost like it's an addiction. And I do think there's an element of sugar addiction out there. So just be aware. It's getting worse, and because food is getting cheaper and easier to get, and we mindlessly eat. Although cigarette smoking has declined over the years in America, obesity is on the rise. So it's like we're replacing cigarettes with food. Better, but not really what we want to do. Okay, and hopefully, as you get older, you will realize it's not how you want to live. In the U.S., 2/3 of women and half of men say they want to lose weight. The majority of them lose money on diet programs. You cannot go on a diet and think it's going to work. You must live a diet. You must say, I am going to change how I eat forever. Okay? That has been the most successful route. And it can't be, oh, I'm going to do this new fad thing I found in a magazine in the supermarket, and I'm going to do it for the next 4 weeks. I mean, you can do it, but most everybody gains weight. Loki, stop! Maggie's going. You get her, Maggie. Him. All right, so keep that in mind. If you have a plan to lose weight, you are usually more organized, and you are more prepared for the temptations that are going to come your way. It is possible, okay? But again, it's usually a lifestyle change, not just simply a a fad thing you can do. And that is the end. Okay. We also have basically alternative medicines that help us stay healthy. So, and I mean, some of them can be kind of touchy-feely, and some of them can be kind of flaky. But people are always trying new things, and I'm a big believer in, by and large, if we take care of our minds and we take care of our bodies ourselves and try to keep it in a healthy range, middle of the road, our bodies heal themselves. Okay, that's me. Okay, now obviously if you get a disease, I don't mean you can just say, well, I'll just mentally get rid of cancer. I understand there are things that come along, but for most of us, many of our problems are self-inflicted. So I hope that this chapter has taught you something. And again, I'm always here for questions. It's something that I don't try to just talk about it. I try to live it. And good luck, and I hope you learned something.